Well, I think I'm drawn to extremes and putting my figures, often solitary figures, and often quite burdened or figures in a predicament. And I like to put them in this landscape of harsh extremes between the light and the dark. And obviously with the bright light, which sometimes demolishes the figure and kind of obscures it and renders it even more vulnerable or fragile. With the bright light you get this shadow, and then with working in hot countries like Morocco, the shadow being even more pronounced, it made me think of the work of de Chirico, the surrealist, in which time and the presence of clocks is very important. And I was thinking about these shadows that sort of inscribe the figure in time and in space in a particular place, and how this kind of ties in with my idea of this figure as sort of as restricted, sometimes bowed down, searching across a wilderness. In contrast with which I paint animals and birds that seem to be liberated in a way, that fly, you know, lemurs, monkeys, and birds recently. And so the human in my paintings, with its shadow, seems rather earthbound and perhaps imprisoned in this dazzling, this glaring, very, very demanding situation and landscape, you know, so hot and so arid, and the figure on its own, searching in this wilderness for maybe some metaphysical answer, because in contrast to time, I get this background of, I want this background of emptiness, which is a kind of, symbolically for me, it's a sort of metaphysical, religious area that poses questions about, I don't know, it sounds a bit much, but it things that are outside time, the void or the eternal or something like that, you know, in contrast to the figure.
Yeah, okay. So you mentioned nature, and you made a comparison just then with your birds flying free, your monkeys flying free. Would you say, therefore, that the shadow, in a way, is like the spectre of the rules of society bearing down, or culture bearing down on this individual person struggling against the repression of the community or the isolation that they feel from their community, whereas in nature there isn't a strict culture, there isn't a society's rules, although nature obviously does have the rules of natural selection and all of those kind of rules, but they don't have a society's judgment.
No. Well, I never thought of that, and it's a very interesting idea, because the shadows in light is something you can't escape from. So I suppose metaphorically it could be not just the burden of being a body in this hot landscape, but possibly, as you say, the burden of society and its strictures and rules.
Yeah, I mean, you've been sort of exploring the female condition in your work for some time.
Recently, yeah, in the last, say, 10 years, yes.
Yeah, in the last 10 years you've done the plumpers,
yes,
the shoppers,
yes,
and now we have the
Muslims.
Figure. Yeah, these Muslim ladies.
Yes.
And I was thinking about it, back to my kind of Darwinian analysis, and I was thinking, well, with the plumpers we've got sex. With the shoppers, we've got the hunter-gatherer foraging for food.
Oh, yes.
And then with your Muslim lady, we've got agriculture, religion.
Certainly religion, yes.
So we're seeing a kind of an evolutionary development.
Yes.
We're seeing a tracing. My interpretation is I'm seeing a Darwinian evolution going on.
Well, I think there is. I mean, retrospectively, you know, I didn't realise it at the time, but there is an evolution. And Peter, my husband Peter, was saying about how the first two categories are injured women, you know, these hysterical plumpers kind of looking for sex and but marooned in these great slab-like fat bodies. And then the shoppers are obviously very discarded and injured. But the Muslim women are somehow self-contained, and within their hiddenness they've got a certain dignity and self-containment, and they seem to be respected, at least where I went, literally respected in Morocco. That's a kind of evolution from, or a difference from, the earlier women who are damaged and injured, perhaps. But
yeah,
I think. Oh, sorry.
No. This is your interview. Well, go on, carry on.
No, it's just I was going to say that all three have different kinds of desire. They embody desire. I mean, those needy women are wanting sex and, howling for sex, and then the elderly women are groping for things in the shelves, but maybe looking for something more than, incontinence pads or Jay's fluid. They actually want love or something, or God, or whatever. And then the Muslims, in my view, because it's such a sort of devout society, in Fez it was 360 mosques and prayers 5 times a day, a hell of a swarm of Nouris calling to prayer. And these Muslim women are like, they're sort of, they're looking for a religious answer, in my sort of view. So there's another kind of, so there's desire for sex for, I don't know what the elderly women are desiring, apart from the supermarket shop, and then the religious quest.
Yeah. So it's about survival, is it?
I suppose. Well, yes, survival. Yes, the hunter-gatherer thing, looking
finding
for food.
a way of getting through it all.
Yeah, but also wanting, once you've got your food or your sex, even you maybe want something more. Maybe desire is endless, as Lacan would.
Yeah. So you've got this ambiguity. We're left not knowing. You present us with something really tangible,
yes,
but then it has an ambiguity too.
As to what they want,
Yeah,
yes. Where they're going and
yeah,
what they're wanting.
Yeah.
Yes, I think, I suppose there's a journey. They're travelling up the aisles of the superstore or down a road, or, often they're on some sort of journey and you don't quite know the nature of the quest, although perhaps the clothes they're wearing, as in the case of the people in Morocco, might give you certain clues. But I suppose, I'm interested in making arresting images that don't necessarily have to have a definite meaning, particularly.
Are you looking for universal themes then?
I don't know if I'm looking for them. They seem to arrive. I suppose maybe I have that kind of mind that wants to, as a painter, root things in the specific, in the real, in the observed, in the contemporary, but also widen them out into universal or broad or ultimate questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you talked about observation just then. I mean, I know that observing real life is really important to you, and you go to all of these locations,
yes,
and sit and wait.
Yes.
Like a predator with your paint.
Darwinian paint.
Yeah. So what's the role of real life observation to you? How important is that?
Very, actually, because work has been done using dead creatures, dead animals, and also using, if you're a painter, using a kind of dead style or a deadened style, which is not my way. I have this tendency to do this very rapid drawing from observation, where you don't even look at the paper, you just look at the figure, and there isn't time, because it's moving so quickly, to look at your paper, and then you end up with something which may be awful, but it may capture the life of something. And it also does something else which has been important for me, because in making things so quickly, it creates certain useful distortions, so that an arm may be extended and a hand may be like a claw, and a pose may be look slightly damaged or extra elongated, and this ties in with my my view of the figure as a fragile or a damaged creature.
This is one of the damaged figures?
Yes, with the side eaten out, you see. And it came from a rapid drawing of a figure in the street, in the Mile End Road. But then it became this painting made with lots of layers of acrylic, which ended up looking like an X-ray, so that you could see through the body and see these processes of sort of degeneration or mutilation. And I called them mutilates because I wanted it to suggest both mutation and damage, mutilation. And these kind of strange club-like hands and elongated, fragile, stick-like arms came out of the original drawing, and the kind of unity of the pose in one sweep came out of the quick, wiry line that I had to use because I was drawing a moving figure.
Yeah, it's like a proto-human to me. This kind of the big shoulders and the long arms.
Yes, yes.
And this kind of dome of the head, like a kind of a big gorilla domed head.
Well, I've noticed that in a lot of my figures there is something non-human or proto-human coming through. They can be like, I don't know, like a ghost or an ape or a cyborg or something. Yeah. And I suppose it's an aspect of the human that I'm getting at through referencing these slightly non-human shapes.
You're testing what is it to be a human.
Yes, I suppose so. I suppose that's true. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and
well, that is one of the shopper paintings, and in this series where these women in black, there was a figure I saw in Sainsbury's one day. This kind of almost primitive Russian black-clad arthropod figure was crouching down and looking into the shelves. And I wanted to contrast. It's part of a series. I haven't got any more here actually. They're going for exhibition somewhere. Anyway, there's a contrast between the black figure, obviously, and the coloured shapes in the glaring aisle, but also the sense that she's kind of slipping down. The floor isn't stable. It's not like she's stable on a flat surface. She's kind of falling. She was part of a series based on a lot of drawings of women in supermarkets, such as there are some over here, I think.
I was going to ask you, just before we leave her, I mean, there's a mix here of the figure and the abstract.
Right, yes.
But that's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. But out of the rapid drawing, you get these simplified shapes, which, against a blank background of the white paper, appear flattened, almost like abstract shapes in a purely abstract painting. And I think it's something I've always gone towards, partly because in my work the figure is overwhelmed. It's up against these, as I said, these rather challenging, demanding situations, these landscapes. It's overwhelmed by bright light, by being demolished by light, by wildernesses, by snowstorms or bleak metropolitan settings. And it's kind of overwhelmed in this empty space. And the role of the abstract in my work is to further overwhelm the figure, because the figure is, as it were, morphing into an abstract shape, and it's not in control of its own identity, its own boundaries. It's as if it's like in my dining room paintings, it's becoming a tiny dot or a mark or a blob, and it's as if it's kind of disappearing into paint or into
losing
an abstract mark. Yes, it's losing its nature, and this to me is an extreme way of challenging its identity, as well as getting at something which I like, which is getting beyond the idea of the familiar world in which we can name everything, you know, knife and phone and shelf and stuff. And so we've got a world of shapes that don't have names, abstract shapes. And for me, this presents the opportunity for a kind of mystery or even menace, because you don't know quite where you are or what things are.
It also allows your viewers, your audience, to enjoy interpreting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You give them a bit of fun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could look at this and I could say, oh, well, I think these are great big cakes. Or
Yes, indeed. Yes. Yes, I mean, I like that liberty. I don't like things to be too
nailed down,
yeah. or neat, or I like the sense of possibility and a loss of limit in painting, so that things aren't all boxed in and definite and restricted.
So we've got a terrestrial plumper right here, and then we've got a flying monkey.
Yes, a lemur, yes.
A lemur.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And here is...
That's one of the figures from Marrakesh.
Nice big bottom.
And obviously done a bit like one of the drawings, very quickly.
Yeah.
With light and shade, light and shadow.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you about how, you know, why have you chosen to explore, or are you exploring Islamic culture? Why have you chosen to do so? Are you?
I'm not sure. It happened as a matter of accident, because Paul, my dealer, Paul Stolper, said that I would enjoy painting in Marrakesh, because he'd been there because of the light and because of, you know, in the souks, this raking light coming down, etc. So Peter and I went to Marrakesh, and yes, I did, but I didn't. I found a new kind of subject, which were these beggars and poor people and outcasts, or a new aspect of a subject I'd already explored, these sort of dispossessed and outcast figures. And also, I suppose, because they were dressed traditionally in Islamic garments, they were for me like an instant shorthand for having a religious identity. And I suppose that religious thread goes through my work, not in a very specific or devout way, but it is there.
And do you identify with the characters that you paint and the you do?
I suppose I do, really, yes, I suppose so. I mean, certainly the human, the solitary human, staggering forward, stumbling forward, exploring, beset, questioning, this querent, on this sometimes rather barren path. I suppose that has resonance for me as a painter and as a person, yeah.
What I would say, although you had gone through your flying monkeys and these Islamic figures now, the plumpers, the horse riders, the dining rooms, the lorries, the baboons, the orangutans, the isolated motorway service stations. Nonetheless, your work is unmistakably Susie Hamilton.
I hope so.
How are you able to have such diverse content in your work, and yet I don't think anyone could ever mistake a Susie Hamilton to be by someone else?
Really? Well, I hope that's true. I mean, I don't really know, because sometimes people say, oh, why have you changed again, and why don't you stay in one place? But I have to follow what really is rich, fruitful, interesting. I can't be bored with myself and my work.
When you were saying that, I was remembering your figures on the beach, burning in the sun. Thinking they're having a lovely holiday, but they're all getting skin cancer.
And then the dark sky above, and they're on the edge.
Yes,
the edge of the land.
Some tsunami's about to get them.
Yes, definitely.
I just wanted to ask you about forging. I find art forges quite kind of interesting. Has anyone ever tried to forge your work?
I don't know. I don't think forge, but copy certainly.
Okay.
But I suppose that happens. You know, people are all people are influenced by each other, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you know, that thing of Picasso's that good artists steal. He said bad artists borrow, good artists steal, which is pretty unpleasant.
Cutthroat.
Happens, yes. But certainly I feel I've been copied by dark skies and actually one person in Germany, I can't remember his name, it was a man, he did petrol stations, monkeys, and another of my subjects, so I thought he must have, explorers, polar explorers.
Yeah.
I thought he must have been copying. But, you know, I suppose you can be complimented.
I suppose that's how you have to interpret it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Susie Hamilton, thank you very much for giving me time in your studio.
Thank you so much, Carole.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you.
Very good.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that enough? That was the
Yeah.
job you
Yeah.